What I really love about this space is we get to work with some of the most amazing companies in the world. Like when you think about it, Les, and you know this, like we can sell what we sell to any employer.
Right.
Any employer will go buy our product, right?
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of industries that you can work in where you can work with Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 10 companies, like to be able to interact with some of the biggest brands or the most important companies or the most prestigious companies in the world, and to help them mitigate risk and hire great talent and all the things that we do. I mean, that was so cool, right?
Welcome to Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Behind the Screens, version 2026. And today I'm delighted to have with me a person I have known for a long time, a person who truly deserves the title of a distinguished member of the background screening community. Not only has been a past chair of PBSA, has held many leadership positions, including CEO, and who has what I can only describe, and this is the only person that I have used this word for, an illustrious career in the screening industry. It's a pleasure to have with us Mr. Dan Shoemaker. Dan, welcome to the program.
Really, truly my pleasure. And thank you for those very kind comments, Les.
No, and it's so much fun to have a chance to talk to you. So, let's start with our icebreaker. Where are you talking to us from? Where in the world is Dan Shoemaker these days?
Well, as you know, we've been all over the world, so it's a good question. We're in Charleston, South Carolina. And so we're right outside Charleston in Mount Pleasant. And
Wow.
We've been here for about 3.5 years. So
Wow. And speaking of being all over the world, and where were you before that? Give us a quick itinerary.
We're working backwards. So we moved here from San Diego. So we were Coronado. And we were there for 6 years. And then before that, we were in Nashville for 3 years. And then we were in London. And you came over and saw us in London,
Right.
which was a ton of fun. We were there for 3 years. Before that, we were in Chicago.
Wow.
We were also there for 3 years. That's kind of the magic number. And then before that, we were kind of at home. I grew up right outside Washington, D.C., in Northern Virginia. So we were living in Fairfax County, Virginia.
And we'll circle back to Virginia because you have some fascinating stories about your work in Virginia government. That's fantastic. So, I mean where you have lived is like a top 10 list. It's like a bucket list. I mean, Coronado is, if you have not been to Coronado in San Diego, is absolutely gorgeous. Where you live now is fantastic. I love Charleston. And I mean, Chicago is like one of my favorite cities. So at any rate, and in London for 3 years. So basically you're living my life. I realize you living every place I would have liked to have lived. That's fantastic. All right. So let's get down to work here. What are you doing these days? What are you occupying your time with professionally?
Yeah, no, I have the pleasure of being the Chief Revenue Officer at Accurate. I've been here for 5 years. And so in that role, I'm responsible for all of our go-to-market teams. So from marketing through sales, onboarding implementation, customer service, account management. So kind of the whole life cycle of the client, which is wonderful. I've got an amazing team of folks across the world. We're selling and supporting our clients. And Accurate's been a great business to be a part of. I mean, Dave Dickerson, the business is still founder-owned. Dave's been obviously in this space for 25 plus years himself and has had a ton of success. And it still had like that entrepreneurial spirit to it, which you know very well, being an entrepreneur yourself. And so it's fun. It's nimble. It's great people. We're very focused on the client and customer experience. That's paramount to us. But it's a big company. I mean, we're a global company. We're the size of some of the bigger firms. We compete with all the bigger firms, but it's just a really fun place to be.
Oh, that's great. I mean, obviously, I've known Dave for, ever since I can remember. And I mean, Accurate's obviously a real happening firm. It's just like exploded.
Yes.
And so congratulations. And it's a great place to be a part of. So yeah, that's great. So what was your career path leading up to Accurate? Because that was obviously not your first rodeo.
Well, as you kind of intimated earlier, I mean, my career path has been interesting. I started in politics and policy, and that was like my passion. When I was growing up, my mother was a real influence on me about the importance of being a citizen and playing a role and being on top of issues and having opinions. And that was important to us as a family. And so she kind of got me into this political bug, and I was volunteering when I was high school, and I was working at a congressional office as an intern. And when I got out of college, I was like, I want to get involved in politics and policy. Like, that's my thing. And so I got into retail politics, and I was running campaigns or part of campaigns at the local level, the state level, congressional level. And I did that for about 3.5 years. And it's like this frenetic pace working on a political campaign,
Right.
because you're kind of your own go for 6 months or so. It's a 24-hour job, right? And you also get to do so many different things. And I think that's what I loved about it. It's like, one day you'd be like, I was running a congressional race, and one day I'll be driving the guy, the congressman around. Like, literally, I was his driver. The next day, we were doing donor calls, and we were, working the phones for money. The next day I was, stuffing envelopes. And the next day I might be like talking to the press. So you wear all of these like different hats, when you're in some of that political campaign mode. And I loved that. I loved, kind of the rapid change. I loved the idea of getting to play different roles. And so I really enjoyed that. I think I kind of lost my idealism, which I think a lot of people do working in politics. And I wanted to kind of get into more policy. And so I got a job actually at a trade association, which we'll talk about later. We'll talk about PBSA, as a lobbyist. And I'd built sort of our federal lobby practice for this aviation trade association based in DC. And I started their PAC, and I was on the Hill, lobbying for, while I was out in the FAA, et cetera. And then from there, I got an opportunity to work in state government in Virginia, as you alluded to earlier. And I spent 3 years working for Governor Jim Gilmore at the time in Richmond. And I was essentially like a policy assistant to the governor was kind of my role. And underneath our branch, we had the ports. There's big ports in Virginia and Norfolk, and we had the aviation authorities, and we had obviously the Virginia Department of Transportation, which maintained all the roads, and we had the transit, and we had the DMV. And so it was like a $3 billion budget, and
Wow.
tens of thousands of employees, and it was just, I love it. I mean, I just loved it. I loved working in that kind of that fast pace, but much like in politics, when you get a chance at a very young age to be exposed to like these pretty incredible people, right? A governor or a congressman or whatever, and you have to kind of elevate your game to be able to kind of play in that. It was a lot of fun. It was a great challenge. So I did that for a while, and I was pretty convinced after 9/11. 9/11 happened. We were in the governor's office then. That's a whole other story to tell at some point. And I was thinking like, okay, I'm going to get a policy job in the Bush administration. Like that was what my next step was. I wanted to get into DOT. Like this is like, I want to work at the federal level, And I was waiting for a guy to get confirmed on Capitol Hill, the person I wanted to work for. And his confirmation kept getting held up. And meanwhile, my wife, Jennifer, was pregnant. She's about to have our first child. And, she wanted to be able to not have to work and to stay home with him. And so my boss at the time, Shirley Wybera, had gotten an inquiry from someone named Billy Lee. And Billy Lee had inquired about, they were looking for someone, this company called Total Information Services was looking for someone to kind of build a federal practice post 9/11. As you know, they were big in the trucking space, this DAC services. And they wanted to know, like, well, how can we be a part of that from a policy perspective? We've got these new requirements that come out for background checks for hazmat drivers and pilots, et cetera. And so I interviewed for the job with Billy in Tulsa and some other folks like Derek Hinton, and got a chance to, I was afforded the opportunity to join the company. Unless, honestly, I'd thought, like, I'm just going to take this job and then this guy's going to get confirmed. And then I'm just going to, go down that path, right? Like, I'm going to
go back to Washington, right?
Yeah, totally. And of course, that never happened. So, yeah.
Oh, that's an amazing story. And first of all, a shout out to Billy Lee, who is just an industry veteran and still, really involved in the business. And obviously our friend Derek, who's been a guest previously, and all that. So, and that turned into USIS, obviously.
That's right. That turned into USIS. And I just kind of fell in love with the world of business and the private sector and the challenges of selling and marketing. And I actually decided to go back to school and got an MBA, and USIS bought Total Information Services, as you noted. And then I moved into the government part of that business, the federal background investigations part of the business. I worked in corporate development. So we did M&A and corporate strategy. We sold the business to a private equity firm. We were buying businesses. And so I was part of that corporate development team. And that's where I kind of honed sort of some of my financial skills, of building the models and understanding the strategy and doing the due diligence. And I had a great mentor then, a guy named Phil Sweeney, who was the CFO and then became sort of the head of corporate development. And I loved doing that. But I wanted to be a CEO. That was kind of where I was like, okay, I love this whole game. I want to get into it. And how do I get to that next step? And so he gave me some good advice. Like, you need to get an operational role. You need to go out and run a business. And so at USIS, we had these business units around the country, because we had, 3,000 investigators nationwide. We broke up the country into these different business units. And so I took this job running one of the business units in Chicago. It was a $70 million P&L. We had 300 employees, and it was just a great opportunity to just, as you know, as a business leader yourself, like, to get your hands on it, right? Like,
what business unit was it? What were they doing?
They were doing part of the federal background investigation.
The federal background. Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. I mean, that's what USIS was saying for years. Yeah.
So we were going for OPM and DOD, and it was it was a lot of fun. It was an incredible experience. I was thinking about this just recently. So at the same time, I was joining PBSA, or NAPBS at that time, right? And I was already involved in that. I was there at the Scottsdale conference, and I raised my hand and said, "Hey, I'd like to help with government affairs. I kind of know that stuff. I think I can help there." And I joined the board in 2006. And when I became chair in 2009, Bob Capwell and I went to London, and we were trying to start, sort of the EMEA chapter of then PBSA. And when we were in London together, which we had a great time, of course, you can't not have a great time with Bob Capwell.
I've heard rumors to that effect. I just talked to Bob this morning, and
and so we were in London, and we were going to meetings, and we were meeting with entrepreneurs, and meeting with CEOs and et cetera. And we were just in a black cab, and I looked at Bob and I said, "Man, I would really love to live here. Wouldn't it be cool to live here?" And he was like, "Yeah, it really would be cool to live here." So now I got in the back of my head, like, okay, I got to get, sort of some, international experience. That's important to me. And I really as I was talking to these companies and I was seeing that they did things differently, and just the challenge of kind of operating in a bit of a different world, like literally I just was sort of overcome by this idea, like, this is what I want to do next. And then ironically, about a year later, I was at a conference, and we had purchased HireRight, and we had purchased then Kroll. And then the CEO at the time, Mike Petrullo, came up to me and he said, I heard you're interested in international business. I might have an opportunity for you. He said, we're we're looking to hire someone to kind of build out our business outside the U.S. Is that something that you would be interested in? I was like, absolutely. I'm all in on
Where
that.
do I sign up?
And he was like, and he said to me, he said, "No, you could do this from Irvine, California. You guys could move from Chicago to Orange County." And I said, "No, Mike, I gotta be
in London.
Yeah, I've got to be in London, right?" But he said, "Yeah, no, you're right. We could do that. We'll do that." And so he was gracious enough to give me the opportunity to do that. And then, went over to the UK and we, integrated a couple businesses that we bought. One of them was Power Checks, which was a business started by an entrepreneur, Alexandra Kelly, who you might know.
Yeah, I had lunch with her once in London. Yeah, she was great. Yeah.
And then we integrated the Kroll business, and we just started to build out this global business.
Fantastic.
It's just an incredible time, so much fun. And that kind of led to the other elements, right? It's like, okay, well, you're now a GM and you're managing a P&L and you're kind of got your hands in everything. And then it was just sort of like, okay, what's the next step? And I think the next step
let me just interrupt you 1 second. You kind of snuck in that while you were doing all this, you got an MBA, and it's like you kind of glossed over that. That's no small thing. What was that? Where'd you get that? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
So I did that I went to Georgetown. And when I started, my second son, Will, was just born. So I think I started in September and he was born in July. And I did that for 2 years.
So Jennifer, you have two kids, and a third will be coming. And you're a full-time dad, full-time family man, full-time working, and you're getting your MBA.
Correct. Yes.
So you gave up what? Sleeping?
It felt like it. I remember there was one summer, of course, Jennifer remembers this very well too, that I was helping kind of run the marketing department at the commercial services division of the USIS, which was in Tulsa. And I remember I would study on the plane. Like I used the plane as my time to open up books and to read. And I used the time at the hotel to do all of these things. And yeah, it was a real busy time of our life. There's no doubt about it.
That was a great, and Jennifer obviously supported you and helped
Very
you through
much
all
so.
that.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Very much so.
So fast forward to London. I remember your apartment. I had a great time there one night. You were sort of just a little north of Kensington Gardens, near the Peter Pan statue.
Yeah, we had this just amazing flat in London that overlooked. I mean, it was like a fairy tale, right? It overlooked Hyde Park.
Oh, Hyde Park, right? Yeah.
That was our front yard. Hyde Park.
Yeah.
And so at the time, of course, we had 4 kids because Kitty had been born, and so we lived a very urban life. We took the bus to the tube everywhere, or we would walk, or they would cycle. We used the park as our front yard, as I said, and we had just an amazing time. I mean, not only was it an amazing time, obviously, and challenge from a business perspective, sort of professionally, but personally, it was just incredible, right? I mean, just to be there and to meet these incredible friends and to be able to travel throughout Europe. I remember I used to tell my colleagues, like when they were saying, like, I'm going on a sales pitch to Cleveland, I'd say, I'm going on a sales pitch to Geneva. So
how to win friends and influence people.
Exactly. Right. Kind of checkmate on that.
All right. So, I mean, I have to share. I had a wonderful evening with your family. You invited me over, and you met all the kids, and you had a nice spread. And the kids were little toddlers. What are they doing now? I mean, I remember them as just little munchkins, and now they're probably not so little.
No, they really aren't. So my youngest Kitty is a junior in high school.
Oh my gosh.
And I think when you were there last, she was probably 2.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm thinking. And then Charlotte is a freshman at Trinity College in Dublin.
Wow.
So she kind of got that bug of wanting to kind of expand her way. And then Will is a junior at Ole Miss. And then John he's in the process of getting a job potentially with one of the federal law enforcement agencies. So he graduated from Clemson in December, last December.
Fantastic. Wow. That's fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just so funny. I mean, of course, you're making me feel really old. I remember them just being these delightful little little rugrats.
Yeah,
And now they're all right. They're all grown up, and you and I haven't aged a day, so I don't know how that works. But
well,
and I remember seeing you one more time in London. I happened to arrive the day or the day before you were leaving. We had a quick beer at a local bar, and you had to go, I got to run. I'm going back to the United States today or tomorrow.
I know it's a point.
Yeah, really. That's right. And unless you get the check, I got to get the flight. No, just kidding. So 3 years in London, man, that's my dream. I used to go to London 2 or 3 times a year during that period, so I was able to catch up with you occasionally. So that's fantastic.
Well, I was going to say, as you have said, I mean, it's the greatest city in the world, I think. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hands down.
Yeah, what's that old saying, saying, "Oh, peeps, if you're tired of London, you're tired of life." So it's just so much fun. So yeah,
So true.
yeah, fantastic. So then at some point they had to yank you out of London, I guess. Your tenure was over.
Yep, I came back to the States, and we went to Nashville, and I was, working on the America's business, and we were trying to, kind of figure out what we do in Canada. We were trying to build something in Latin America, and obviously he had all of our clients in the U.S. And then, I got a call from a headhunter who was saying that there's a small screening company that's looking to, they want to roll up a few others and sort of build out a larger firm, and it's a family-owned business or a family office-owned business. And that's when we moved to San Diego, and I started to run People Facts,
Right.
which at the time was, a $7 million business. It was based in Toledo, Ohio, really, but we had an office in San Diego too, and we just for 18 months we did 2 acquisitions. We went out and we bought Nancy Roberts' business, Track One.
Right.
And of course, I knew Nancy really well. And that was a lot of fun, one, to kind of be a part of that process with her. Because, as being an entrepreneur, building a business yourself, I mean, that's your baby, right? And so.
Yeah. And Nancy built a great business.
My God.
Nancy Roberts, she was
really
really on
did.
it.
She absolutely built a great
yeah.
business with great people. And it became kind of a foundation for us. And then, I mean, like 8-9 months later, we went out and bought Universal. So, the business went from 7 to 70 plus pretty quick.
Wow.
Pretty quick. And it was fun. It was a good ride. And then I just decided it was time to just sort of take some time off. And I took some time off. And during that time, I kind of got reconnected with Tim Dowd. And Tim and I had worked together back in the USIS days because he was running the USIS Commercial Services Division. And I was in corporate, being the corporate development guy. And he's like, I think we're going to, we might be doing something in this space. We might be looking at an acquisition. You want to come help me, kind of do this? And I was like, great. And so I got together with him and Dave Dickerson, and we did the Career Builder acquisition. And then I came on board full time shortly thereafter as the CRO. And we closed Career Builder March 20th of 2020. So like minutes before the world shut down, which was like, it was, because COVID had just started to hit.
Cool.
And so it was an interesting time to be a part of that. It was a really interesting time to integrate a business, during COVID. But it's been fantastic. It really has been fantastic.
And a shout out to Tim. I met Tim a long time ago. I was in Tulsa. Been in Tulsa a couple times, and toured USIS. Was amazed at, just how many people there were, how much was going on, and I had a chance to get to know Tim a little bit. So anyway, all great people. That Tim and Dave Dickerson and so forth. So that you've been fortunate or hang out with them. They've been fortunate to hang out with you. So it's all good. It's great. And that brings us up to date. So now you're happily ensconced with Accurate, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun to kind of scale the go-to-market team, from a smaller business to where we are today, and it's just a great group of people to work for. I mean, I know that kind of sounds cliche, but when people ask me like, what do I love about working at Accurate? I always say that. It's like, I just love working with the team. It's just, they're just really good folks.
And previously, Katie Harley was on the program. She was a past chair, and she's at Accurate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just amazing. So we're going to get to PBSA in a little bit because you had again a distinguished career at PBSA. But before we get there, we talked about a few people, but are there any mentors or any other influencers you want to give a shout out to, or been kind of instrumental in your career?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess the people I think to be fair, I can be honest, my parents were big influences on me.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
I
Yeah.
think you probably feel the same way too. I mean, I think about people that have had the biggest influence on me. I think their humility, I think their, sort of their work ethic, those things rubbed off on me pretty significantly. And then obviously we talked about Jennifer, my wife. I mean, she's been my counselor through all of these changes. Every time you want to take a role or you want to move or whatever it is, it's always been a real team effort. And I think she's been great. And she's so incredibly selfless. I think she always kind of grounds me too, because I can be a little selfish, and I think she pulls me back, which is good. But I talked about Phil Sweeney. I worked with Shirley Wybera in the governor's office, and she had been a transportation policy analyst to Elizabeth Dole and the Reagan administration, and she had a very kind of distinguished career in federal transportation policy during the 80s and in the 90s. And she was a huge mentor to me because as a young kid, I was in my mid-20s. She really taught me the importance of I call it sort of egalitarian leadership. She had this idea. She was from Nebraska once, so I think she had just sort of this Midwestern ethic where everyone has a role to play, and everyone's role is important. And she always gave me the opportunity to be in the briefings with the governor or even have a part to play in those briefings, ensuring that I was prepared, giving me big assignments and knowing that I could handle them. Right. And I think that, I really think about her a lot as being someone who challenged me, believed in me, and taught me, right? I mean, I think that's what good mentors do.
And I think you actually had the title of assistant to the secretary or the assistant secretary of transportation in Virginia.
That's correct. Yeah. I was
wow.
appointed by the governor, and I served at his pleasure. So
that's impressive. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny how life works because you easily could have. There's so many paths you can go down. You could have gone down a path where eventually you could have been a congressman or a senator. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the lottery of life. And and then the background screening industry struck a nerve, and that's great. I mean, to the benefit of the screening industry. So, all right, that's just an amazing, an amazing zigzag adventure, particularly the 3 years in London. So that's really special. So, Dan, with all this marvelous, adventures. I mean, it's just the adventures of Dan Shoemaker. What were some of the an early lesson that you learned in your career that has stuck with you that bubbles the top of mind?
I think the one thing that I always go back to is you really have to take risks. And you can appreciate this, obviously, having that you're an entrepreneur, so you obviously know how to take risks, and you have before. And I met so many people that have, but I think taking risks it's so important. Like if you really want to do the things that you want to do, you're going to have to take risks. And right. I think, every move that I made was a risk. And whether it was like the physical move or just the move into another role. And I think that's one thing that has served me well. Yeah. And they don't always work, by the way. Sometimes right. You take risks and then you don't succeed or they don't turn out the way that you want. But you learn so much from that, right? Yeah. And I think that's one thing that a real big believer in taking risks, of trying things, of not being afraid to fail, and kind of embracing change in your life. I just think I think that's kind of the secret to just staying, I don't know if it's staying young, but just sort of staying active and keeping your mind working is really embracing change. So that's probably one thing that I learned early and, one thing I continue to do.
Yeah, I guess, and even if it doesn't work, one door closes, another opens. It just, the adventure continues. You can't always predict what way, right? But something happens. So, yeah.
That's exactly right. Even if it doesn't work out the way you want, I'm sure you will have gained something from it, right? And you do. Yeah. I mean, the things that I failed in, I've gained a lot from. So,
oh, that's fantastic. So as one of your many adventures, and you were on the board, you were early involved in the formation of NAPBS, PBSA, and you were on the board, and then you were chair during a real pivotal year, the year that accreditation was adopted. And so tell us about the role of PBSA in your career.
I've heard you say this a lot, and I think you and the founders really did a nice job of creating this culture. I was thinking about this just recently, but like I said, when I showed up in Scottsdale and Billy said, you should really get involved in this organization. Derek was going to get involved in it from USIS. And I said, okay, great. I think I have a role to play. And again, as I had said before, I had actually worked at a trade association. So I kind of understood inherently like what it could be and the value of it. And I really felt like, obviously, given how regulated we are, the government affairs element of it was going to be critical to creating value for the membership. And so I thought, well, I'll join the government affairs committee because I understand that. I've been in politics. I've been a lobbyist. I understand how Capitol Hill works and how federal agencies work and how state agencies work. And so, I kind of signed up for that quickly. And I think it was maybe a year or two later. I don't know if it was 2005. I just remember we did the first Hill Day, and I helped organize that. I remember literally calling congressional offices and setting up appointments, and we did all of the legwork that I think now is all done by, the real pros.
Right, yeah.
And I think we were at one of the hotels in Crystal City, and we were training people about, how to talk to members of Congress and how to talk to staffers. And it was just things that I knew. And I was like, wow, I know these things and I can contribute, to the organization.
Because you've done it, been there, done that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you've always said this is that it's open. If you will volunteer and you have talents, then provide those talents. And I really took that to heart. And so, that first Hill Day was, I think, pretty pivotal to us as an organization because we literally went and talked to the FTC, as I recall. We had some really interesting meetings where we sort of planted a flag like, yeah, we're here,
Yeah.
And then from there, I joined the board in 2006. And I remember joining with Pam Devada, who obviously we all know and is an incredibly special person. And from there, just continued to serve and then got the chance, obviously, to be chair. And as you said, in a really pivotal year as we were launching really the next element of really building value to our membership, right, which was having this credentialing process and being able to go out to the world and say, we do things differently. We have a different standard. And to be able to go back to the regulators that, look, we're regulating ourselves. We understand what we're doing. We have a standard that's higher than others. So it was a great experience. I think I remember serving with, obviously, Art Cohen, I think was the chair before me. I learned so much from him, and he was such a good and such an able leader too. I think you say this, and he always said this: so there's no good deed goes unpunished, and he would always, you would always remind me of that. But I think the reality with PBSA was it was a real opportunity just to serve, and to play a role in something that was growing. An industry that was growing. And I felt like I had some talents that I could share.
And so you were on the government relations committee prior to being on the board, right? If I recall.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I served as the chair of the government relations committee and then jumped on the board. Yeah.
And to me, that's the hardest job in the PBSA at the time before professional staff came, because there was just so much happening. Every state had, and most of the legislation never go anywhere, but you had to stay on top, and the federal legislation. So that, to me, that was like, oh my God, whoever takes that on, God bless them. That's amazing. And you mentioned Art Cohen. Yeah, so I think he was a chair before you. But this is my Art Cohen white shirt. Art Cohen, shout out to Art. Art had the philosophy, don't go shopping. Just get a bunch of white shirts and wear those every day. Right. So, and he told my wife that. My wife said, Les, that's what you're doing. So now I just wear white shirts. All right. My Art Cohen white shirt. All right.
I love it. I could totally hear him say that. Totally hear it.
So then you had a really critical year as chair, and then you were past chair, and then you stayed on the board, and you've been involved in going to the conferences and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in the UK, I tried to help them, kind of get that organization off the ground. And to some extent, I tried to be a player on the ground, I guess, on behalf of
Right.
the organization. But, I really kind of felt like other people should join and play a role. Like I kind of felt like I did my part
Right.
and I want other people to come in and do their part,
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
not that I didn't want to be involved. I just really felt like it was time for someone else to be involved. And so I probably didn't get and I had other things that was going on too, obviously from a business perspective, but I've stayed close to everybody. And I still think, I marvel at what we have built,
Yeah.
from a trade association perspective. It's incredibly impressive when you think about where we were and where we are today. And I know you marvel at that, I'm sure, as well, having been there at the starting point.
It's sure started on a shoestring. So, all right. Well, so with all this tremendous background, and before we pivot to life outside of screening, what comes to mind? Brings a smile to your face as something that you've accomplished professionally. You said, "Yeah, that was good. That was really cool."
Yeah, I think it was, my time outside the U.S. It was an amazing experience for me. We had operations in Poland. We had operations in Estonia. We built out an office in Singapore. We had an office in Hong Kong. We had clients, all over the world. And I think being able to interact with people from all of those different areas and, bringing them together, as a leader and building out the strategy at how we're going to grow this business outside the U.S. And obviously a lot of people were involved in that success, but I really look back at that as being a pretty pivotal moment in my career that I think like that was kind of a bit of a turning point, because
Oh,
it's something that I think not a lot of people do. And so when it's kind of on your resume, you can really talk about something that's very unique. And I love the challenge of selling in different countries and just the process of wanting to understand the culture, wanting to understand the pace of the process, the importance of relationships. The way we sell in the U.S. is completely different than anywhere else in the world.
mhm.
Completely different. And, to be successful, you have to acknowledge that, and you have to kind of take off your American hat, right? And you got to put on, sort of your diplomat hat. And I loved that. I thought that was just an amazing experience.
That's so interesting. So just, we don't have an hour to go through that, but just an example of how selling inside of America would be different than selling in the UK or the Asian Pacific, or, what would be an example of that?
I think a couple examples would be my experience in the Middle East is that it's very much about relationships.
Right.
And all of the conversations you have really need to be about building a relationship. Americans want to get to the business and end of the conversation quick, right? They want to
Right,
close
yeah,
the
yeah.
deal, right? That's just who we are. And I think that in the Middle East, especially, the relationships are critical. And if you don't cultivate those relationships, then you'll never be a part of the opportunity.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to cultivate those relationships for a long time before you even get the opportunity, to move forward in a business setting. I think in Asia, obviously, it's very formal. It's still very kind of hierarchical. I remember I made a huge mistake, cultural faux pas in Japan. I was going to visit our office in Japan. In Japan, most people don't speak English. And of course, I didn't speak Japanese. But there was a young woman who worked in our office there every day, and she spoke English. And so I was talking to her, communicating to her, kind of doing all the logistics. I'll be at the office at 11 a.m., blah, blah, blah. Can't wait to see you, etc. And so I got to the office and I met her and I was really excited to talk to her. And I did what I would normally do. I just started to walk around the office and talk to people. And she looked at me like, what are you doing? Like, oh,
Wow.
you need to go see the managing director first. Like the first person you need to go see is the boss. And so by the time she actually got me to his office, he was not very happy because I made a huge cultural faux pas. And the first person I was supposed to meet was kind of my peer, right? Was the managing director of the office. And then from there, he was going to walk me around and show me the office, as would be the right thing to do. And so it's those kinds of things that I just, you learn from and you make mistakes, but I really enjoyed kind of those challenges of, trying to kind of figure that out. Like, how do I figure out the culture? How do I close this deal? How do I build these right relationships? And it was just so much fun. It was just so much fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you've had so many opportunities and so many directions you could have gone. I mean, just unlimited amount of things you could have done, but you chose to stay in screening. I think you kind of alluded to some of the reasons, but what sort of motivated you to stay in screening and so successfully? I mean, you had leadership. You were a CEO. You leadership positions in a very large, happening company. What kept you in the background screening world that you found fascinating, that keeps your attention and keeps your interest?
I think there's two things. I mean, I think one is I got some advice because I think early in my career, when I was in corporate development at USIS, I thought, okay, I'm gonna leap out of this into something different. And I got some advice, which was great advice, and it seems obvious, which is like your path to the things you want to do is easier to do from inside the company you're already in.
Yeah.
And if you see those paths in the company you're already in, then don't look elsewhere, right? Figure out how to navigate those paths. And so that really rang true to me. And that was when I started having conversations with, our CEO at the time about, hey, these are the things that I want to do. Can you help me figure out how to get there? And I was very fortunate at people that would help me do that. So I think that was the first thing, was like, actually, the things that I love, like I talked about wanting to be outside the U.S., I wanted to be a senior leader, I wanted to be a growth leader. Like, the easiest path for me to do that was where I was inside this screening space. And so I just stayed there. It was the right move for me to do the things that I wanted to do professionally. And then the second thing, what I really love about this space is we get to work with some of the most amazing companies in the world. Like, when you think about it, Les, and you know this, like, we can sell what we sell to any employer. Right. Any employer will go buy our product, right?
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of industries that you can work in where you can work with Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 10 companies, like, to be able to interact with some of the biggest brands or the most important companies or the most prestigious companies in the world, and to help them mitigate risk and hire great talent and all the things that we do. I mean, that was so cool, right? Like, that to me was incredible when I got to, be able to interact with Apple and Cisco and HSBC and JP Morgan and all these, these amazing companies and these super talented people in HR and security and risk. It's like, where else can you get this kind of exposure, right? I mean, so to me, that was the thing that I was kind of locked in. I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is a real challenge. And it's an experience to be able to interact with all these different companies and these different brands. So
that's a great observation. I mean, in all the interviews I've done, you're the first person. And that's a revelation to me that you said that, because I've never thought of that. But you're right. We work the spectrum of the entire economy. And there's some industries where you that are more specialized than others, but we can do all that, and that's right. Yeah. We get exposed to everybody.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this. I mean, we could be in hospital systems, we could be in grocery stores, you can be in, banks. I mean, there's just this, and like I said, I've been fortunate enough to literally, when you go to those corporate headquarters and you meet all the brass. I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
a great experience.
All right. And now, Dan, that's fantastic. Man, you have some unique experiences and some really unique perspectives. I really appreciate that. That's really, really interesting. So let's as we go down the home stretch here, let's pivot away from background screening, and let's talk about Dan Shoemaker outside of background screening. What are we talked about your family and how well your kids are doing. Still blows my mind that those little tykes are now where they are. It's like, all right, and you and I haven't aged at all. But what do you do when you're not, commuting to Georgetown to get an MBA and all that kind of stuff? What are you doing for fun? And what's your life outside of work? What do you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about family. I love to spend time in the water, so I love being by the beach, and I love to surf. I love to just be in the ocean. I think the ocean is an incredible elixir to everything that ails you in life.
Surfer too?
I try at it, but I enjoy it. I mean, it's a very floaty longboard, Les. It's not very impressive.
All right. Well,
It's an odd old.
that's great. You're our second surfer. All right.
Well, I think Cagwell does too, if I recall. Maybe not.
I think he tries.
He tries.
All right.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you'll find I spend most of my time playing the drums in a cover band. So I've been playing the drums since I was a kid. And, when I was playing in San Diego with some guys, and we had a great time. And when I got here, I got fortunate enough to hook up with some people. And I play in this, we do 90s and 2000s kind of alt rock covers. And we play out once or twice a month and, practice once a week or so. And it's a fantastic outlet. I mean, it's just so much fun. It's a kind of an artistic outlet, but it's also, it's a good way to relieve a little stress. Right. I mean, to be able to go and bang the drums for a bit. So that's probably my biggest kind of hobby right now, is just continue to do that.
Wow. All the time I've known you, I had no idea that you were a drum player. That's amazing. And you play in a cover band. That's great.
The band's called 96 Wave. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. Check us out.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. All right, folks, you heard it here. As soon as you're done, you go to 96 Wave. Check out Dan. Drumming away. All right, on cover band. That's fantastic. I had no idea. We usually at this point ask for a fun fact, some fact that people may not know or suspect about you, but I think you already revealed it. That you're a drummer in a cover band. No idea at all that you had this secret life. All right. Your kids know about this? I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, they're my biggest fans and supporters. The hardest part of it, Les, though, is these shows start at 10 p.m. and some of them don't end today. They're 1. And I mean, it is a struggle. I mean, for, a 53-year-old man to be getting up or to be staying up that late. So that's all right.
So any other fun facts? Any other secrets? Anything that has not heretofore been revealed that people can unmercifully tease you about next time they see you at a conference? All right.
Well, I guess, I mean, the only thing about me that I think most people don't know is I'm a big train buff. So we talked about my passion for transportation policy, and I kind of got there through my dad had worked for the railroad, and I just kind of grew up being a big train buff. And so my dad and he would take me on these train excursions when I was a kid behind steam locomotives that were still running. And we would do this in the summertime. And I still to this day, I'm fascinated I love trains. I love riding them. I love seeing them. In fact, my dad and I and my son, John, were in Virginia earlier this fall doing a steam excursion together. And it was the first time we'd done it in a while. So it was a lot of fun. But that to me is that's my geek. I'm a train geek, I guess is the best way to.
Oh, that's fantastic. And there's lots of those around the country still. There's just lots of places where they have, next summer I'm going to try to do Durango's, the Silverton train. But there's been a big revival in these, they may not go that far, but that's great. That's so much fun.
Yeah, there's something magical about watching a steam engine. I mean, it's just such an impressive piece of machinery, right? Just the way it works. And of course, my dad was an engineer, a mechanical engineer, so he completely understood how it worked. But I just think there's something really magical about that.
Right. Well, there you go. So the perfect day would be having a gig on a train, right? Right. Having your cover band.
Totally.
Right.
All jams from a train. That'll be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Get your drums on the train and do a 2 or 3 hour concert. All right. Oh man, Dan, I think we've covered so much. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to talk about that we haven't fully revealed here? Or do you want to keep a couple of secrets still?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think so. I don't have any more secrets. I mean, I think this has been great. This has been a lot of fun, and your whole series I think is incredible. As I've listened to it, it's just been really fun, kind of thinking back,
yeah,
where I met a lot of these people, and the times that I've had with them. I think, that there is something special about that. For me, and I think that, people like you and Art and others that embraced me when I was younger, and then people like Pam and Jason who were, my age at the time. I mean, it's just it was a special time for me, and it was fun to kind of reminisce a bit with it. So
Yeah, and it continues because you're still
and it
involved.
continues. Yeah,
Yeah, you're still up to it, up to your neck, and right, and doing lots of stuff. So, right,
totally, definitely.
it's not ending. Well, this has been fantastic. Talk to you. I mean, given all your perspective and your experience, and your emphasis on mentorship, that you had the chance to be mentored, and you had the chance to mentor people. And given the fact that you were a CEO during a big acquisition period, what would be your advice for not newcomers? And I define that broadly: either someone who's just starting, or maybe someone who's been in the industry for a few years, but they're not in management or leadership yet, but they like to maybe chart a course for that. What's your advice? What say you?
Just I'll kind of go back to my take the risk, just jump in. I mean, I think you just got to jump in. And PBSA, whether it's getting involved in that, I think it's still very much an organization that is incredibly welcoming, wants to use your talents, welcomes your talents. So I just think there's a real opportunity for you to just jump in and just take the risk. So I think for people that are kind of coming into this space, it's a great way to get involved, and it's an easy way to get involved. So
I think a lot of people don't realize that even if you are not just a, but you're a records person, or your verification person, you can call PBSA and get on a committee. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be. You can be in the lower rung, or as they say in Star Trek, you can be in the lower deck, and you can still become a force in the industry, if you want to. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's such an egalitarian place, and it's everyone plays a role, and to your point, everyone can be whatever they want to be if they just put in the energy and the effort and the commitment.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a true meritocracy if you have the time and a little bit of talent, and you're able to play nice with others. The world is open to you. Well, Dan, this has been great, and let me conclude by giving you the last word, giving you the floor. The floor is yours. Anything you want to add or say? The world is listening.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Les. I mean, again, I'm thankful to everyone, to you and to everyone that has had a role in where I've been and where I am now. So I just appreciate that. And I really appreciate the conversation. And I'm excited about the future of this space. I think the future is bright. I mean, I think the macroeconomic climate this year will be better.
Yep.
And I think that, technology is really obviously going to continue to drive us forward as an industry. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the future.
That's true. I mean, we've all lived through economics up and downs, and it always ends up going up, and the technology pushes it up. So it's all going to happen. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, it's just been so much fun, and learning things I hadn't known before, and particularly that your ambition to be a drummer on a train. Right. So I really appreciate you being here. I thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you, Les.
Thanks. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been an absolutely great session with my good friend. With, as I said at the beginning, and what I said was proved true. Had a truly a distinguished and illustrious career that is ongoing, Mr. Dan Shoemaker. So on behalf of our sponsor for the podcast, Barry Nixon and the Pre-Employment Screening Directory, I appreciate you listening in, and we will be back next time with another guest. Dan Shoemaker, thanks again.
Thanks, Les.
Thanks. All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info, or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions, or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.